internet here is probably the quality is going to be awful. So today, instead of at the junkyard, I was there earlier, but Chris was here today, so I ended up going to the racetrack with him. Kind of hung out for a little bit, and then I come run home really quick and do some other stuff. So worked on the charger a little bit this morning, but yeah, I'm gonna mostly get I'd say like I don't know 75% of the stuff that I need to get done tomorrow with it. I didn't want to start everything today, but I did start pulling the stuff apart that I needed to get done or to get apart. So then tomorrow it's already on the lift. It's all pretty much ready to go. I just need to drop the engine and tranny down, wire up the engine, wire up the bay, and then put the brake lines in, put the ABS pump in, and then put the engine and transmission back in. And I should be done with that in the next few days, which will be really nice because that'll mean that the engine will have power, the starter will have power, the ABS pump will have power, everything will be ran, and I should be able to finally plug the battery in, key it on, and start seeing if I have any issues, any faults in the display, and kind of go from there. And maybe even be able to test starter up. I've already heard the engine run in the Durango, but finally maybe test start it up on some starting fluid just to verify that everything's going to work. I'm also going to be able to put the oil filter housing on, the oil filter, um, the oil cooler lines, and a bunch of other stuff. I should be able to maybe put the under tray in the car. The Cerakoted headers that I coated last week will also go on the engine, and or exhaust manifolds will also go on the engine. So getting close. I mean, like everybody says, the last 10% is 90% of the work. I'm pretty sure this is. I don't know how the quality is, but I feel like it's maybe kind of bad. But yeah, I'm late. I was hanging out with Chris at the racetrack, so didn't take anything. Just kind of his friend was there with the old BRZ, and he was just kind of seeing how it was doing and wanted to talk to his friend, and it was just kind of cool. He's here for like a week, which will be nice, and yeah, it was just kind of cool to hang out. Even though we hung out like probably 4 weeks ago when I went to Alabama. So let's see, the quality's just fine. That's amazing. So hopefully, they're supposed to be putting in fiber internet finally. So hopefully I have fiber internet at the house, which will be awesome because then there'll be, it won't take me 3 days to upload a video. It'll take me, normal time, like 10 minutes at like max on fiber. So that'll be really nice. Won't have to almost just struggle. And it's just always on my mind, uploading videos that it takes 3 days. So that'll be really nice. I also thought about I think they have fiber at the junkyard, like service. So I might even get it there as well, just so I have a little bit better service. But my phone works pretty well at the junkyard. And since I'm not going to be using it to upload my videos pretty much all week or all month at home, um, it'll kind of give it a break. So then I won't have to be relying so much on my phone's service. Man, nobody's in here today. This is odd. This is very odd. So I guess it will be a pretty short stream today. Ooh, what's this? Can I live chat? All messages are visible. Oh, top chat. Some messages maybe not visible. Super chat. None. Oh, oops. I messed it up. There we go. We in here? uh, I've never messed with any of these settings. No filter. Oh man, there's filters. I don't think I have a good enough connection to use the filters though. Let's see. Share. What's this? Ooh, man, I really haven't messed with any of this stuff. Interesting. Okay, let's get out of there. There we go. How's it going? Pretty good. I'm really happy that I'm finally getting to the part where I kind of almost see the end of the tunnel on the charger project, just because I'll be able to hopefully fire her up in the next, I'd say, few weeks. Then it's pretty much making a fuel tank, which I almost have completely designed, and fuel lines and other stuff. The brake lines were probably one of the more difficult things, just because I ended up running out of material. Well, there was a bunch of issues with the brake lines, but I ended up running out of material when I was making the rear ones, just because they're so long. So then I had to order like a special roll that was 25 feet long, because they only were selling 16-foot long sections. And then I was able to make the driver's side rear line, which was like, I think it's like close to like 21 feet of line, which is crazy. So yeah, those will all go in. That'll be nice to finally be able to bleed the brakes, because then I'll have brakes. That'll be one last thing on my mind, is the ABS pump and the brakes. And yeah, it's getting close. It's just so much stuff to just go through and worry about, and hope that you think of everything, and then finally, I'll be able to do the first drive, and hopefully I thought about everything ahead of time, so I don't have any issues. But there's always a chance that something's going to happen that's going to cause me to, I'm sure I'm going to have to go back and modify stuff. But my hopes is that when I have to go back to modify stuff, it's not super drastic modifications. And I don't think it will be, but without actually real world testing something, you never know. So I just can't wait for the first drive. I'm sure there'll be a few issues, but it's coming. I mean, it's really coming. And then the red Magnum is also coming along. My plan this week is to pretty much just button down and work on the blue Magnum as much as I possibly can, um, and hopefully make a lot of good progress on it. And probably around like Saturday or Sunday, at that point, the blue Magnum should be at, the whole front end should be back together. It should be off of the lift, and then I'm going to cover it up. I'll probably wash it first, but I'll wash it, cover it up, and then I want to undercoat the red Magnum, so then I can put drivetrain in the car. So it's in the car, it's not sitting around the shop anymore, and then that car will move forward. I need to get the undercoating done, so then I can get all the wiring in the car. And then my next series in the video, which is going to be wiring the car, for the red car, that'll be posted as well. And I have a bunch of other stuff that's going on. I've been buying a few cars that I probably shouldn't have been buying, but they're really rare cars. The chances of me finding these cars again is pretty slim, and I got pretty good deals on them. I mean, they're not anything really special, but they're kind of rare. I mean, they're just like old, like older Chevy two-door cars and stuff like that, which are getting, super hard to find. And it's crazy how expensive they are. And it's really cool that you can get pretty much any body panel for these cars. You can get floor pans, body panels, and they're like a whole floor pan for them is like $750. And if I was going to do that on like a JDM car, like let's say the Pulsar GTIR, it'd probably be $8,000 worth of sheet metal compared to like $750, which is crazy. So yeah, I can't wait to start messing with those. I got a few diesel trucks that I got for other projects, and to use axles out of this one and the engine out of the other. But then I had a problem. The dude brought it over and broke some stuff on it. So now plans have kind of changed. So yeah, we'll be posting those videos soon as well. Let's see. Greetings from New Zealand. What's going on, Patrick? The moment I hear the car start up, I'm going to send you $100 for the next tank of gas. Thanks. Why do you have to design a fuel tank? So the issue is, since I wanted to not have any problems with the Trackhawk or Durango Hellcat all-wheel drive system, and I didn't want to have any issues with the differentials blowing up like they do in Chargers and Challengers. They're like the weak point of the car. But the Durango Hellcat and the Trackhawk differential are pretty much double the size. So that meant double the size of the differential meant the stock fuel tank wouldn't fit. And I kind of wanted to do something different anyway, because I was going to run dash 12 feed and a dash 10 return. And there's not really a way to do that on a factory fuel tank, because the lines have to come from the top. They have to go down pretty much, in between the lower floor pan and the fuel tank, and then they get squished, and then you're not really. It's just kind of then you have to worry about the fuel line getting punctured or something crazy happening with it. So I designed an aluminum fuel tank that's going to replace the factory one, and it's also, I think, going to have a little bit more capacity, which is kind of cool. Plus it'll be aluminum. Then I could have the outlets go perfectly straight out and not have to worry about any of the lines bending around. So I wish I didn't have to do that, because I would much rather have used a factory fuel tank and not had to custom make every single piece of the car. But when you're doing stuff like this, it happens. I mean, you just have to kind of like work through it, and when issues arise, you just kind of deal with them at that point. I didn't think I was going to have to do that, but I think in the end it will be a better option, because if I want to, I could make the fuel tank so I could have two options, and I might actually end up selling them, have like a half fuel tank option. So then you just have just the passenger side of the fuel tank, and mine's going to be a full with the hump going over the drive shaft. But and I might sell both options, and then they'll work with my all-wheel drive setup or a factory Hellcat, because if it fits with the huge diff, it's going to fit with the the factory subframe and the diff. So yeah, that might be a possibility. So I haven't really got to that point. I want to make sure everything's going to work, everything's going to fit, and then see if there's any interest, because I know a lot of guys run like fuel cells, but they put them inside the trunk, which I don't want to do, just because I want to have all the factory interior, and I want it to be a nice drivable car that I could daily drive if I wanted to. Let's see. Every time you post a video doing the harnesses, it blows my mind. I mean, after you do enough of them, you're pretty much comfortable not having to, not worrying about mixing stuff up, especially since I've done so many Dodge wiring harnesses and Hellcat wiring harnesses. I pretty much know what each wire does and where it's supposed to run. So as long as I continue to do them every so often, I'll never forget it. And Dodge isn't really going to change much. So, but if, let's say I didn't do it for probably a year, 2 years or something like that, I probably need a kind of a refresher. Click the like, thanks. Take your time and do it your way, Dave. Well, I do want to drive for this summer. So I want to drive it this summer is the plan, and this spring and stuff like that. So I want it to be done. Helping your subscriber with his Magnum makes you realize just how hard this stuff you do is. Yeah, so I feel like a lot of people don't realize getting everything to work is the hardest part. So swapping a Hellcat engine and a transmission and a rear subframe and everything else that bolts right into the car is the easy part. But making everything work, like the windows, the door locks, the keyless entry, the rear camera and the hatch, it's just so much extra stuff. Plus modifying all the sheet metal so everything bolts in. Um, so you don't just have a bunch of random stuff just like piggybacked over each other and left in there. And it's just, I've seen so many just hack jobbed magnums that, they might be wrapped, they might look cool, they might have a front end on an old magnum in the old body style, but if you really dig into them, they're just kind of, nothing works in them. And it's kind of sad because it's stuff, people love this stuff on the internet. Um, and I was talking to the subscriber about that. He was like, telling me about, people in Detroit that they swap their stuff and multiple things on their car doesn't work, but it runs and drives, so everybody's pumped about it. So I want all my stuff to work properly. I want to be able to roll the windows down. I want to be, able to use cruise control and have keyless entry and be able to use my backup camera and have everything secured and bolted and not have to have, anything happen. I mean, I want to be able to drive the car and not have to worry about it. Let's see. Let's see, as meticulous as you are, I'm sure it won't need much tinkering after you get it put together. Hopefully. I mean, you never know. I did a lot of suspension design, and most companies that engineer that and manufacturers, they spend years and years designing suspensions. So hopefully I didn't mess anything up, because suspension and having like a finicky, toe or caster issue is a pretty big deal. So hopefully I don't have any of those. I think my caster's fine. I think my toe's gonna be fine, but um, you know, it's something you always have to worry about since I want to actually drive the car aggressively. Let's see. I would love to be there for the first drive, to fly out to Colorado for the first drive. What do you use as the undercoating for your cars? So I use the Raptor. It's like a truck bed liner. I've used a few other things, and I think that works the best because most of the other stuff is like a waterborne coating, and I really don't like it because it goes on wet. You're supposed to aggressively scuff the surface, and then it's going on wet. It's water-based over bare metal. It doesn't make sense. So the Raptor is a solvent-based it's a solvent-based chemical bed liner, and it goes on over bare metal, and you don't ever have to worry about it. Okay, anything older that has any cool factor at all is getting ridiculously expensive. Yeah, it definitely is. It's just crazy. Like things you wouldn't even think about. Hell yeah, thanks. Why not? That's good for you. What's up? Not much. You? Mo party in your face. I hope I can make that. I really do. I really want to see some good wide shots of the Charger outside after you get it all put together. Out of all your videos, you don't have much footage where you can see the entire car. So yeah, it's just crazy because I don't show much of it from the side profile, or how wide it actually is. And that's I think what the subscriber that came down here with his Magnum he didn't notice it until I showed it to him, because I had both Magnums lined up, and he was like, man, this is like an extra like 1.5 feet wider than the factory Magnum. So and it looks just so much more aggressive. It looks just mean. The factory Magnum is just super skinny compared to it, and you don't really notice it until you see them right in line with each other, because you really don't pay attention to it because it looks so factory. And to me, I look at the car all the time, so to me, it just, looking at normal Chargers is like, they look weird because I see my car all the time, and I'm like, this is how they're supposed to look. And then you see a normal Charger Hellcat driving around, and I'm like, that's weird. But I don't know. It's just seeing it all the time, I guess. That's why I followed you, because you make sure you pay attention to detail and want everything to work. Thanks. That's what I try to do. I've done a few engine swaps. Getting the engine in is the easy part. Getting the wiring right so everything works is the hardest part. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff, especially, people don't realize it, but even when you're doing aftermarket ECUs and installs, it's still difficult to get everything to work, um, because you want it to integrate into the factory system. So anything with wiring, um, and anything with kind of integration is very difficult. And I don't think people really realize it. And I don't think they really care on YouTube until they're experience it. They're in the car. It's their car. And then they're like, oh, this doesn't work. That doesn't work. My launch control doesn't work because the ABS isn't hooked up. There's multiple things, but yeah, it's something I like to pay attention to, because like the stereo system, I was going to try to piggyback the factory Hellcat charger stereo system, and then I was like, why am I doing this? I'll just use the Durango Hellcat, everything out of it, and then I'll have a really nice sound system. I'll have the sub in the rear, and it'll be just like factory. So, and that's what I did. What's up, Dave? Not much. You? Okay. Have you thought about your next step? Next step in what? You should do an Infinity G37 build. Maybe eventually. When's the wagon going to be done? It's going to be done when it's going to be done. Let's see. Let's see. So I said I'm going to keep this to around like 30 minutes for the live stream today. So it's getting pretty close. So ask your questions while you can. Opinions on 7th gen Celica. I don't think I've ever seen one. Hey Dave, what's going on? Your next project. I have a few projects that I need to finish, but I have a few next projects coming in. So my friend actually sent me a listing to a Pantera project that it's a little bit overpriced for what it is. If it had an engine and transmission, I would probably pay what the guy's asking, but it's just way too high for. It has no engine. It doesn't have a transmission. It's missing a bunch of parts. It's in primer. It's like this huge project, and it's just, if he comes down, probably I'd say $25,000, I'd probably be interested. And I have big plans for a Pantera project. I really want one, but I have some other cool stuff that's coming. And yeah, yep. Like 23, hell yeah. Okay. What do you think about a G37? I actually really wanted a G37 when they first came out. But I had that G35 four-door factory manual that turned it into a drift car. It did great. I mean, right now, I don't need a G37. I wanted to do something with a Q50 red, but then I found out the steering isn't connected to the steering rack, and I wasn't about to do drive-by wire steering, so I opted out for the Challenger. That was my the thing that I was going to buy before I bought the Challenger. Let's see. Most of the builds like yours that I have seen in person always have electrical issues. Have you thought about doing a collab in the future with another builder? Maybe if I did anything, it'd probably be with Sarah or I don't know. I don't know who else. I mean, I've talked with David Patterson. I think we're pretty cool. So maybe something with him if he had something that he needed help with or something like that. But I don't really know too many other YouTubers, so yeah, I don't know. And diesel powered Pantera. I do. I did just get a 6.7 in, so um, I have a G37 and a 370Z. That's tight. I like 370Zs. I think 370Zs are the best version of that body style, like in the 350, 370Z kind of era. I think you and Superfast Matt could come up with something wild. Have you seen his off-road Viper he's working on? I have not. I haven't even heard of that channel. But I mean, an off-road Viper would be kind of cool, as long as he like made it four-wheel drive. I wonder if he could take like the four-wheel drive out of a Dodge truck and make it work. How about the street Bandinos in Maryland? He does a lot of carbon fiber body parts. Yeah, I've seen some of the stuff where he does like the roofs and stuff. My wife said, "Hello, Dave." She loves work. Thanks. Hi back. Um, yeah, so I I I have a few cars that I think that I'm gonna get or that I've gotten that some people might like, especially the guy with the 370Z. Scrap your life. Put a Viper motor in a Nissan 240. That's tight. The one thing, yeah, I don't know. That's a pretty big engine. The one thing I really don't like to do as much as possible is I don't like to like cut stuff up if I can. But I mean, a Viper engine in a 240, that would have to be stuffed in there. Yeah. You got to put that RX-7 together. I do. I need to get the RX-7 together. I need to do brake lines on the FC so I could drive that thing again. So I probably should do that pretty soon and get that all buttoned down. Would love to see you do a Pantera. If that's the next car for you, go for it. Yeah, so it just depends. I'm not going to spend, a Pantera. I'm not going to spend $100,000 for a Pantera that I'm going to resto mod. I want to find one that's a project, like a shell, but has a transmission that I could, you know, do something to, that I'm not worried about. I'm not going to take a perfectly good rare car like that and then just chop it up or like pull the engine and stuff out of it, because they didn't make too many of them. And there's a lot of them. I know of two that are just sitting in like barns, but those are, they're fully original, but they're probably by now, need a restoration, because that was probably 15 years ago I saw those cars. So, and they're probably still in that barn, but, yeah. So it's just kind of one of those things where if I come across something, I'll probably jump on it if if the price is right. Let's see. I'm gonna sell my Harley because I want that Pontiac you have. You got a lot of sick builds. You doing right. Take your time. Time on everything. I'll always stay tuned. Thanks. Appreciate that. So like I said, I'm going to pretty much just leave this at 30 minutes because I have a bunch of stuff that I need to do. And this is, I guess, a short live stream this Sunday, but tune in next weekend, and I'll also have a video out tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. See you guys next time.